God afton. This is a video response to Marty Worm's video on 20 most meaningful albums during his teenage years. And unfortunately, some of the more important ones I have either lost or sold during the years, but I have been trying to rebuy most of the stuff I'm missing. Also, since this was quite a few years ago, I have tried doing it chronologically, but my mind is a little bit fuzzy and might have missed a couple of important releases. Here we go. My first memory of heavier music was the music video for You Could Be Mine from Guns N' Roses, and I think I was maybe 8 or 9 years at the time, and my sister bought me the Use Your Illusion 2 CD for my birthday, and unfortunately I thought and still think that You Could Be Mine, Civil War and Knocking on Heaven's Door are the only good songs on that CD, but that was my first stepping stone towards rock music and stuff, and this was in 93, I think. And in maybe 96, 96 or 97, this was the first metal record I owned, I think. And this is Herzeleid by Rammstein. And it was the heaviest thing I ever heard, and I still think both this and Sehnsucht is very good. And a classmate played me the track Rammstein, and I was hooked, and I think I was 13 at the time. I don't think their later material are on par with the two first ones. And this was released in 95 through Motor Music. Great stuff. And when I started high school in 97, I think a friend of mine had a Blind Guardian shirt on and recommended me checking out Tales from the Twilight World. And I ordered that and Tokyo Tales from a place called Ginza, where you fill out a paper form and send it through postal service. And I also ordered Destiny by Stratovarius and some Iced Earth. And these were my favorite bands for a long time. And this is Blind Guardian's absolute best album in my opinion. Also got it on vinyl. And, it was released on CD in 90 through Virgin, and the vinyl is a Nuclear Blast 2017 reissue. And the Iced Earth I choose is the Alive in Athens from 99. It contains 3 discs with until I think something with something with the Wicked was they were touring that CD, and up until that I think everything is great. Afterwards not so great, so this is all their best stuff on this, and very good stuff, released by Century Media in 99. And I remember I listened to power metal in the beginning, but when I listened to Hammerfall's Legacy of Kings, my mom entered my room and asked if I listened to Europe, and Europe was very lame. So of course I felt very offended and stopped listening to power metal after her comments. And fortunately for me, I ordered the Tokyo War Hearts by Children of Bodom sometime during this period, and it was pretty much the same kind of music, power metal type of thing, but with harsh vocals. And my mom never said they sounded like Europe, so that was a big win. And I even had Lake Bodom as my ringtone on my old Nokia phone. And I also picked up Colony by In Flames, and these 2 records, which I unfortunately have either lost or sold, got me into growled and more scream vocals. And I borrowed the Black Album from another friend, and I thought it was very good, so I ordered some random Metallica stuff, and it turned out to be a fail, since I ordered Reload, Garage Inc. and S&M, but eventually I got hold of Master of Puppets, and afterwards Metallica was my favorite band for some time, and I picked up all the releases. I still think the first four is good, not as good as I thought back then, but Metallica was very good, and the same friend that I borrowed the Black Album from had Diabolus in Musica and played me Bitter Peace, and that shit was and still is one of Slayer's best songs. And I went to public library and borrowed Seasons in the Abyss and Raining Blood and was hooked on Slayer. And through the aforementioned Ginza I ordered Divine Intervention and Decade of Aggression. And Decade of Aggression is it was released in 91, so it was before Divine Intervention, so it only has the classics from the first records, including Chemical Warfare. It's very good still, and I don't. At the time, I was very disappointed Divine Intervention because it sounded nothing like Season in the Abyss or Raining Blood, but I have come to terms with it, and I think it's a good record now. Slayer, Decade of Aggression, American Recordings, 1991. Nice price. And sometime during this period, I borrowed the compilation 10 Years of Nuclear Blast by one of my teammates in my handball team, and that record had songs from Dissection, Dimmu Borgir, Meshuggah, Therion, Hypocrisy, Dismember, Cataclysm, Incubus, Macabre, and Winter, among others on it, and it's probably the single most important release in forming my metal music taste. And as a direct result of that sampler, I bought Storm of the Light's Bane by Dissection. And this is still one of my absolute favorite records, although I think I slightly prefer the Somber Lane. And this got me hooked on melodic black metal. And this is not an original vinyl. I bought all my all music on CD back then, and this is the unofficial 2009 repress. But it looks very similar to the original release. Very good stuff. And I also bought Dismembers, Like an Ever-Flowing Stream, as a result of hearing it on that sampler. And this got me hooked on the fuzzy guitar, the HM2 Sound and Sunlight Studios Productions. And this is not an original release either. This is the Back on Black 2010 reissue, and the sound quality is a little bit poor. But anyway, great stuff. And also this one, Incubus, Beyond the Unknown. It was straight from the sampler, and this record got me into death thrash, and this was released in 91 through Nuclear Blast, and this is the compilation with Beyond the Unknown and Serpent Temptation, their previous release that was released in the year 2000. Yes, and also Macabre, Sinister Slaughter, Behind the Walls of Sleep, and this got me interested in serial killers and reading about that and watching documentaries. And the first thing I thought about when Gary Ridgway was arrested back in 2003 was that the track "The Green River Murder" He's Still Out There from Gloom was inaccurate now. And this is a great band. Unfortunately, I don't have any other of their releases, but I will pick them up eventually. And the last from that sampler was Osculum Obscenum by Hypocrisy. And this was Hypocrisy was the first ever death metal live experience I had back in the year 2000, and when I was 15 years old, and it was very, very exciting. And sometime during this period, a friend of mine recommended me Slaughter of the Soul by At the Gates. And this is still awesome and made me revisit Old in Flames, Dark Tranquillity, Soilwork, and all the Gothenburg stuff. This was released in 95, and the Sinister Slaughter Beyond Unknown was released in 1990, and Sinister Slaughter in 93, and Osculum Obscenum in 93, all through Nuclear Blast, and this was released in 95 through Earache. And I also have the 2007 vinyl reissue, full dynamic range reissue. And the second time the second metal show I attended featured Hypocrisy once more, but also Dark Funeral, which featured ex-Hypocrisy member Masse Broberg, who did guest vocals on Pleasure of Molestation during Hypocrisy's performance. And I picked up their EP called Teach Children to Worship Satan, that contains a cover of Pagan Fears by Mayhem, and made me discover Mayhem's The Mysterious Dom Satanas and the Norwegian black metal scene. And that was the first time I heard a Sodom song. And at that show there was several people that had Fuck Me Jesus and Christ Raping Black Metal shirts, and that was very badass. And someone informed me that the band was Marduk, and I picked up Panzer Division Marduk, but it was at first a little bit too extreme. But I kept listening to it because I thought the Stuka sounds and stuff was very, very cool. So after a while it started to click, and after that I was a fan of aggressive and ferocious black metal. And this is, the phone ran out of memory. This is, I have it on CD and also on picture disc. Great stuff. And where was I? I was gonna say, I went back to the festival I talked about earlier, and that the next year there was a band called Hypnosia that was labeled as the second coming of Metallica, so I picked up Extreme Hatred by the band, and this was not like Metallica at all. This was much more aggressive and intense than Metallica, and much better than anything Metallica has ever did. And someone said it was just a Creator and Sepultura rip-off. But this is very good. One of the best thrash releases ever. It was released in 2000 through Hammerheart. And of course I checked out those bands. Unfortunately I failed with Sepultura first, since I picked up Against, then Chaos AD, before finding this Slaves of Pain. And this is a bootleg from. It was recorded live in Finland in '91, but according to I read some stuff, and because the last 4 tracks have much worse sound than the other. Also, Beneath the Remains and Slaves of Pain is they appear twice, but that is from a completely different gig in Holland. But anyway, I also checked out Creator, of course, and I couldn't choose which one. Extreme Hatred or Coma of Souls, because Pleasure to Kill was, I thought that it was kind of lame because the production was so bad, and these two have very good production, very good stuff. And also when I looked out Creator, I also found Sodom, and this is Marooned from '94, and it has Remember the Fallen, as that was the same. That was a track that Dark Funeral covered on their Teach Children to Worship Satan EP. This was released by Steamhammer and the Creator stuff on Noise in '89 and '90, and with the newfound interest in what apparently was '80s thrash, I went browsing the metal archives and found a user called Ultra Boris. And if he gave a thrash album a high score, it was almost always superb. And a couple of these was Eternal Nightmare by Violence. And this is, in fact, an original pressing, but I had it on CD back in the day. And also Darkness Descends by Dark Angel. This is a High Roller Records 2017 reissue, both classic records. And after a while I wanted something more extreme, and I'm not quite sure how, but I found a Swedish band called Defleshed. They had a much heavier guitar sound and some blast beats, and they released 3, 4, 5 records, but their debut and their last one was not so good. But I picked Under the Blade, but I could have gone with Fast Forward or what's it called, A Royal Straight Flesh. And check this out if you haven't heard them. It's thrashy death metal. Yes, and in the same vein I found Carnal Forge, and they actually released a new album last year, I think, but it was not good. But this is Fire Demon, that one, and Please Die. Also, the Who's Gonna Burn, the debut, is very good, but I think this one is the best. With it was released in Century Media in the year 2000. Very good stuff. And also Destroy 666, Cold Steel for an Iron Age. And this is a 2016 reissue. Very good stuff. And afterwards this led me to more and more extreme music, and I picked up Black Seeds of Vengeance by Nile. This is a 2015 repress, and I had it on original CD back in the day. And this is more brutal death metal. And also Vader's Litany, Vader's best record, one of my favorite bands, also released through Metal Blade in the year 2000. And an old classic band, but I found this was the first record I really heard, so to speak. And this is The Will to Kill by Malevolent Creation, and this is still my favorite album of theirs. And the last two records that had a significant impact is Cult of Luna's self-titled debut album, and all the other records are very fast-paced. And even in the beginning, I liked my metal to be fast, but Cult of Luna is more. It's more like a slow wall of noise, very heavy, and this got me into more slower stuff. And when they released their third full length called Salvation, this is much softer than the first two, and they have very long build-ups and stuff, and more post-rock, but still heavy when when it needs to. But this after this record, I started to explore post-rock more, and stopped digging into all the metal stuff for a couple of years, and was heavy into post-metal and post-rock and stuff. And as a side note, I think, I don't remember what year it was, but the very first death metal track I heard was, of course, Hammered Smashed Face in Ace Ventura, and I think early on I had a copy of Tomb of the Mutilated, but I did not really like the music. It was just so over the top. But I think Cannibal Corpse is probably the first death metal release I heard. Metal band I heard, I meant. Thank you for watching. Bye.